Good evening, folks. It's 7 o'clock, and we're going to get started promptly with our program, as I promised. Now, for those of you who may not know in the audience, I am Patricia Williamson. I'm the chair of the Carver County Republicans. It's my pleasure to welcome you to Carver County, specifically to Chanhassen High School. It's a lovely facility, as you've probably seen. I hope you enjoyed your networking time and that you had a time to look at our voter registration table as well as the one from the Southwest women's group here. I'm so glad the Southwest Republican women could come and represent. They actually came together with a voter registration table very early on in last year, and they have a whole kit available on their website that people can download and print off your own. It has a calendar of dates and all kinds of great stuff. So Ann Boyd and Karen Miller have done a great job with that, and I'm so pleased that they were able to make it tonight. Again, thank you. We're going to get underway. I do want to let everybody know that we do have Alpha News covering tonight here as well. So friends and things will be able to take this in. So thank you to Alpha News for coming. I'm so glad that we developed a relationship with Liz Collin. It was really nice that I have her email. I was like, why didn't I think to tell her sooner? We have quite a program for you tonight. We're going to start with one of our executive committee members, Eric Jansky, is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tiffany Boria, Deputy Chair here for Carver County. I have the pleasure of leading everyone tonight in our prayers, so if you could just please bow your head. Father, we come before you tonight grateful for those who are in attendance here tonight, who took the time away from their families and life and busy schedules to be here, as well as for Scott Presler and the many candidates and representatives who also chose to join us for tonight's event. We pray that this time together will be enriching for all of us, and we will leave here informed and motivated to do what is right for our state and nation as we approach this election. You have given each of us unique gifts and talents to honor you, and I pray we can use our gifts to do just that as we go forward in this place this evening. We recognize that our country was built on your word and for the right to freedom for all who live here. You remind us in your word in 2 Corinthians 3:17. Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. Father, we desire to keep you center in all we do each day and every day as we seek justice and to uphold our God-given rights in this country and to enjoy the freedoms you have blessed us with. I lift all this up in your name. Amen.
All right, thank you, Tiffany. Tiffany is our deputy chair for the Carver County Republicans, and she does an excellent job with all kinds of things. Before we get started, I wanted to talk a little bit about Carver County, and we had a slide that were rolling before, but hopefully you all had seen a little bit of that about our events and things. In fact, tomorrow morning we will be going out, and we will be going door to door in newer neighborhoods, and we're going to try to meet the neighbors, if you will. And one of the things that we have these cards that have been available to our members for well over a year that we developed last year. And on the front, it's got a way that you can go to our website. You can sign up for an email if you encounter someone that really wants to get involved. On the back, at the very top, is a QR code that leads you to a voter registration at the SOS. That you can stand there with them and guide them through registering to vote or updating their registration, which in the case of places where there are new subdivisions, a lot of times people are more worried when they first get into a house with finding their toaster and unpacking their shirts than registering to vote or updating their voter registration at their new location. And every time you move, you need to do that. So we've prepared these last year because we knew that this was an important component. I actually called it the DeSantis protocol. Sorry, Scott. Because I like having names for things. So we were going to go out and we were going to try to register voters. And we went to a gun show last year and we've done a few things. And I got to say, this year at our county fair, and I think the word's really getting around that it's so important that everybody needs to be in the mix, we registered at least 20 to 30 new voters at our county fair booth in August, which was unbelievable. I don't think we'd ever done that before. we had the QR codes out and we had the paper forms, you know, the old-fashioned forms. The Secretary of State's office has been really kind and generous, and I got to tell you, they'll send you these for free. If your organization, your BPOU, your local county party, SD, maybe you got a women's club, you can request these for free online on the SOS page. But moreover, they have all these handy-dandy little cards, about the same size as the card that I started with. How about that? They didn't copy off of me. But the good thing is they have one that's for every kind of topic. Vote early by absentee ballot and how to do it. And guess what? On the back side is that QR code that you can get. They will overnight these to you for free for your organization. You just have to go to the website and send them an email and tell them which ones you want. There's one up there for how to vote, who can vote, who register to vote, your locations and how to find them. And again, there's the QR code right on the front that people can update their voter registration or register to vote. Here's another one for new voters. It's great to have that conversation with people and say, here, and then give this to them. I go around and I slam these indoors because you know what? They're free to me, and I'm probably paid for them anyway as I'm a taxpayer. And then there's one now that's new. It's for high school students. And if you didn't know, September 17th is National Voter Registration Day. Many of our high schools around the state have signed up for a program that the SOS is putting together. We've had a few people that have done some videos for them. Anyway, they're going to try to register high school students. And I know a lot of us might have had funny feelings about this whole idea of registering kids automatically when they turn 16. But I got to think about it. A lot of kids get their driver's license at 16, and that motor voter doesn't catch them because they don't go back when they turn 18 to register. And that's what's missing. So that's why they kicked it back to 16, so that way when they go in and get their driver's license, then they can be in that motor voter type of program to get registered to vote. There's hiccups in every system, so nothing's perfect, but it takes us all to have some mindset that we're going to approach people, that we're going to ask for them to get registered to vote, and we're going to invite them to. We're going to invite them to participate. We're going to invite them to join us, because the more people feel connected to their local, and I think this is even more important in Minnesota, people feel sometimes isolated if they're conservative. And so let's let them know they're not alone and they don't have to hide under the rock, and yeah, it's okay to have a yard sign, but it's very much okay to vote. Everyone should express their civic participation in this manner. So thank you again for joining me, and without further ado, one thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to give you over to Representative Walter Hudson, who was recently named the Minnesota GOP Outreach Director? Strategic Outreach Director, which, by the way, I love the word strategic, so thank you for being here tonight, Walter. I think the press release just came out, 2 days ago? So thanks so much.
Well, let me start off with a couple of stories. The first one I stole from State Senator Andrew Matthews. He told it to a group up in Champlin where I was attending a Trump Force 47 training last night. He was doing door knocking, and he lives in a pretty rural area, and so you got to drive down some long driveways. He comes up to the house. He sees that the guy who lives there is out working in his yard on a piece of equipment, so he approaches him. You always get that awkward moment of, who is this guy? Why are you here? But he gets through the ice, and he asks him, are you planning on supporting President Trump this year? And the guy says, well, if we vote, we'll vote for Trump. If we vote. I was on the phone earlier today with my colleague in the House, Tom Murphy, from up in the northern part of the state, and he shared that in 2022, his district, by the way, I thought mine was okay, 65-35 Republican. His is like 80-20. It's just beet red up there. But they had 5,000 known Republicans not vote in 2022. 5,000. Think about the difference that makes in a statewide race. And we lost quite a few of those in 2022. If you average it out in every House district in the state of Minnesota, the number is somewhere between 2,500 and 3,500 known Republican voters who did not vote in 2022. Now, that is a self-inflicted wound. That is an unforced error. Now, there are a lot of things we can't control. The Democrats outspend us 10-1. They have the institutional advantages of the media bias and the union machine and all of these things that we like to complain about and grouse about. But one thing we absolutely can control is whether or not we get ballots into boxes. We have 100% control of that. And what I want to point you to, because as was noted by Patty, it can be tough to be a conservative in the state of Minnesota. Sometimes it's pretty hard, especially the past 2 years under a trifecta, to feel as though anything we're doing matters. But consider, even with all of those disadvantages in 22, we came within 0.5% of firing Keith Ellison. We came within 0.5% of firing State Auditor Julie Blaha so she could drive off into the sunset and drink as many White Claws as she wants, right? We almost won those statewide races. We lost the Senate by 1 district, and we lost the House by 4. That's without even trying, guys. That's without even trying. That's why what we're going to hear from Scott tonight is so incredibly important. Because the difference between 22 and 24 is we are trying now. We've caught up to the way the election system works and the advantages of getting on the ground and getting ballots into boxes. That's what the game is about right now. You wonder why Kamala Harris and Tim Walz aren't running on ideas? Because it ain't about ideas anymore. It's about this. It's about getting out there. So I'll leave you to it. Happy to see Scott again. I'll be seeing him tomorrow night in Wilmer as well, emceeing an event down there where he's going to be speaking, giving the same information. So it's been an honor, and thank you, and enjoy the night.
Okay, so just me again for just a second before we get to the main speaker. And here, everybody is so eager. And this was so, it was so nice to have the connection made. Luckily, since I've been chair, I've met a lot of really great people, and they thought of us first, I guess, as one of the opportunities back in March and see if we could have Scott. And Scott's come out, if you didn't know, from Pennsylvania. It's his last trip before he goes back, and he will stay there solidly until the election, door knocking, motivating people to get registered to vote. And he's going to tell us a little about the places you can look for people to register to vote. We've had some unfortunate barriers here. We've had a couple of churches that don't really want to let us get in and do registration, but the public sidewalk remains. And I've got some big banners coming with these QR codes that are on the little cards, but they're big. So like if people are driving past or waiting for a turn, they could go ahead and register to vote while I stand out with my sign. So I will not be deterred. We keep trying. You know, I might get a little nuts. I see Scott. I see a lot of pictures of him online where he's out trying to encourage people. And I got to say, you know, one thing a lot of people, you know, like Walter's story where you come up, if I vote, well, does it really matter? Does it really make a difference? It does. The person who sits in the seat that represents this district right now only won by 417 votes. I'm ashamed to say 2 years ago, I was the chair of the precinct that I live in Chaska. And we only got 65% of the vote out in my own precinct. And if you even took into account out of the 2,000 people that didn't come out and vote that day, if only a third of them were Republican votes, if they had just come to the polls, we would have had a different representative in the House. So that kind of hit hard because I was out door knocking other areas. But I can kid you not, I can look down at a map. I've got a map. I know exactly where I door knocked in my area, and I know exactly the couple of streets I didn't hit, and those made a difference. So when people ask you to come out and door knock, it does make a difference. And the more of us that join together in the effort, the better off we are. And I think that's where Scott's going too. Can you imagine we've been tugging rope back and forth between the currently registered voters? I need you to get out. I'm not going to get out. I'm going to get out. I'm going to take the independent this way. I'm going to take the independent that way. And we've got hundreds, if not thousands of people sitting it out on the side. I looked at some information from the Secretary of State's website from a few years back. They estimate there's upwards of 800,000 unregistered adult voters here in Minnesota. That's shameful. And 30% of Christians, there's been publications that estimate 30% of Christian evangelicals are not registered to vote. And those that are, only about 40% are regular voters, and the rest of them kind of waffle around back, am I going to go? So we need to change that. We need to encourage our neighbors and friends, and Scott's here to give us some ways and tips, and he's got tons of experience because you've been doing this for 8 years, maybe? Yeah. So he got motivated because, like me last year or 2 years ago, I said, wait a minute, what the heck just happened, and what can I do different? So, all right, give it up for Scott Presler.
Let's give another round of applause to Miss Patty for having us. Are you guys ready to defeat Tim Walz? Are you guys ready to re-elect President Donald J. Trump? I love that. I love that. Well, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Scott Presler. I am the son of a retired Navy captain. I am that long-haired, flat-ironed Eagle Scout. And in 2021, I received the Ronald Reagan Award for Freedom at CPAC. Thank you. But how did I get started? I want to thank President Obama. I'm very serious. The night that he was reelected in 2012, I created my then Twitter account because I was so irate. But I wasn't just mad at President Obama and the state of our country. I was mad at me. I said, Scott, where were you knocking on doors? Where were you registering voters? Where were you getting out the vote? And I realized that my inaction meant that I was the problem and not the solution. So, the reason why I'm wearing cowboy boots in the great state of Minnesota is my first job was helping to elect now Governor Greg Abbott in the great state of Texas. I was working at an elementary school. I started off as a dog walker, couldn't find a job. And in 2014, I just said, you know what? I want to be a part of the change. So I moved my life halfway across the country and helped to have that wave election in 2014. Now, in 2016, Justice Scalia passed away. And so we had a split Supreme Court. It was 4-4. And I knew that 2016 was consequential. And so I dedicated 2 years of my life, and with your help, we defeated the Hillary Clinton, electing Donald J. Trump as the 45th President of the United States. And my life was changed forever by President Trump. He was talking about the city of Baltimore, Maryland. Do you guys remember that? And he used kind of some ungraceful words talking about the city. And I'm the guy that went into Baltimore. And with 200 volunteers, we picked up 12 tons of trash in one day, in 12 hours. I went home to my ma. I was really excited. I was like, Ma, I'm really good at picking up trash. And her heart swelled with admiration. But more importantly, I thought to myself, you know, this is why I'm a Republican. Because I believe that concerned citizens coming together in an act of love could do more good than the government with all its power, all its might ever could. And so I started traveling the entire country. I thought to myself, what's stopping me from doing the work that the government fails to do? What's stopping us from doing it? And so we organized trash cleanups all across the country, from Atlanta, Austin, Baltimore, Chicago, Denver, Duquesne, Detroit, Houston, Kenosha, Los Angeles, Miami, Milwaukee, Nashville, Portland, Pittsburgh, Philly, Salem. I was protested for picking up trash in San Francisco, California. Do you guys in Minnesota, do you guys say bless your heart? No, but you know what it means. Okay, good. Bless their hearts. And so 2020 was a debacle. We know what happened in that election. And I thought to myself, okay, let's regroup. I'm going to do everything in my power to stop Joe Biden from being able to pass reckless and dangerous legislation. I'm going to spend the next 2 years trying to take control of Congress and take away his power to legislate. So we started doing some gas station voter registration. And we went to Long Island, New York. We went to Pinellas County, Florida. And our efforts doing voter registration flipped Florida's 13th congressional district, electing Congresswoman Ana Paulina Luna to Congress in Florida. She is a fierce and ferocious freedom fighter. And we went to Seminole County. It's right outside of Orlando, Orange. And we elected Congressman Corey Mills to office with our voter registration efforts. And yes, on Long Island, I am also responsible for electing George Santos to office in New York's 3rd District. But it shows you the power of voter registration. Long Island, that area of Brooklyn, oh my gosh, that was blue. But we went after the Orthodox Jewish community. We met voters where they are. And so that would be my message for you guys here in Minnesota. Now, why did I launch my organization, which is called Early Vote Action? It was inspired because of 2022. Guys, what happened on Election Day in November of 2022 in the great state 48 in Arizona? Can anyone tell me? What happened? In Maricopa County, the most populous county in the great state 48, the machines had printing errors, that the margins were off by an inch on what day? When do Republicans vote? Coincidence? And so, what happened? Look, we're working class America. We're moms, we're dads, we're grandparents. Working dads, do you think they're going to have the ability to wait hours in line when something goes wrong on Election Day? Moms, grandmas, do you think they can wait 3 hours in line? No. Carrie Lake lost by 15,000 votes. Had we, in my opinion, done more early voting, voted by mail, or just engaged in an all-of-the-above approach to voting, I firmly believe we would have Governor Carrie Lake today, and we'd have Attorney General Abe Hamadeh, who lost by like 300 votes, and Senator Blake Masters, that Arizona would be in a much better position today. Now, what happened in Nevada? And I know this is stupid, but you guys are some tough people living here next to Canada. Because, no, I'm serious. Because it snows a lot, right? Okay. I know this sounds really dumb, but listen, when it's November, how cold does it get in November? Okay, well, colder for me than you guys. But in Nevada and Washoe County and Reno, it snowed on Election Day in November of 2022. For some reason, our people like to live in the mountains, and they were living in the mountains of Reno, and it snowed. We lost a Senate seat against an incumbent Democrat by 8,000 votes statewide in Nevada. Now it gets worse. Why does it get worse? Because 150,000 Nevada registered Republicans did not vote in 2022. Did not vote. Now it gets even worse because Nevada is a mail-in ballot state that every person receives a mail-in ballot whether or not he or she has requested one. That means that 150,000 registered Nevada Republicans got a mail-in ballot, didn't open it, didn't fill it out, didn't walk 10 feet to their mailbox, and even worse, we didn't have a Republican Party knocking on doors to do legal ballot harvesting, which is legal in Nevada. We didn't chase their votes. We didn't have them vote early. We didn't have them do early in person. We left that Senate seat behind because we didn't fight for it. And it sounds like that's happening here in Minnesota, that if every person in this room gets 5 people to vote, oh my gosh, am I hearing correctly? You could flip this district just from this room alone getting active. And then the Democrats wouldn't have a trifecta state government in your state, right? All we need is 1 Senate seat. We need to pick up a couple House seats. And so, what else happened in Luzerne County, Pennsylvania? They ran out of paper ballots on Election Day. And it gets worse because it wasn't just running out of paper ballots. They ran out of paper. Right? It's so ludicrous. It's so asinine. It's so laughable. And I don't think it's just incompetence. I don't think it's just negligence. And so when I hear from people, and trust me, I love my pillow. I love Mike Lindell. Let's give a round of applause for Mr. Mike Lindell. But in my humble opinion, with our country on the line, with our country struggling to breathe her last breaths, I don't want to have Republicans only vote for 12 hours when everything can go wrong, while the Democrats in Pennsylvania, for example, are going to be voting for 50 days. They get a 50-day head start. How is that fair? Whereas we have to get every single Minnesotan, every single American that loves our country to vote in 12 hours on one day. When Elon Musk invites the president, and there's a DDoS attack on X. When, after Milwaukee, they had a power outage that grounded planes and affected the early voting centers in Maricopa County. This isn't Scott Presler making things up. These are all factual things that have happened that have affected our elections. And so that's why I created my organization, Early Vote Action, earlyvoteaction.com. Now, while we have been focused on Arizona, Nevada, North Carolina, Wisconsin, Michigan, all of my time, all of my energy, and after this event with you guys here in Minnesota, everything is dedicated to winning the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania because Pennsylvania wins the White House. And if you guys do your job and we win Minnesota, they can't win. Literally, Minnesota wins the White House too. So, where do we go from here? Well, I know that you guys are like automatic voter registration and all that stuff, but so are we in Pennsylvania. And just because you have automatic voter registration, people can still opt out of that. People still move. And so we must be constantly courting votes, meeting people where they are. So I do want to go over voter registration with you guys. Now, I'm not in Minnesota. I'm a neophyte at Minnesota voter registration. But from what I have read on here, I'm going to go over it with you. And Patty, please correct me if I do anything wrong. So what is required to register to vote in the great state of Minnesota? It does ask you, are you a United States citizen? You do have to put your citizenship. And it says, will you be at least 18 years on or before Election Day? And I know in your state, you can pre-register at 16. Now, it doesn't mean that you can vote, but you can pre-register. So if you know any 17-year-olds that are turning 18 by November 5th, they can vote this year. Now, why is that important? At least in my state of Pennsylvania, we have a deadline, October 21st. And so, if a kid waits to register on their November 4th birthday, they would not be able to because they would miss the October 21st deadline. I know that you guys don't have one, but that's why it's important to know these things, important to know the dates. So you must put on here your last name, first name, address that you live, date of birth is required, phone number and email are not, but guys, you want that information. Why? Because when I register someone to vote, does that mean that they're going to vote? No, that's where we come in. We have to court their vote. We have to follow up with them. Do you ever ride to the polls? Do you want to vote early? Do you want to vote by mail? Do you have any friends that need a ride? That's what President Obama did. There's no secret sauce. This is just community organizing. This is just following up with people. Now, this is important because on number 6, where you identify yourself, you can do your Minnesota driver's license or the last 4 of your Social Security. Why is that important? Because we got a lot of students going to school here. They don't have a Minnesota driver's license. And so if you have somebody going to school here from California, get them to register in Minnesota. That is legal. That is lawful. Their vote counts more here in your state than it does in New York or Rhode Island or Connecticut or Delaware or even a red state. If they're from Alabama, Tennessee, South Dakota, you get that vote here in a purple state to swing it to the right. And we do have beautiful Amish in your state, right? The Amish don't drive. So do the last 4 of your Social Security number. Now, on here, it asks you previous update on your registration. It's not required. And then at the very bottom, you must sign it. You must date it. Now, when somebody's done with their form, I want you to say, can I take a look at your form to make sure everything is done correctly? Because you are not allowed to put their signature for them unless they allow you to fill out certain things on the form. So like with old people, more mature individuals, or maybe kids that have terrible handwriting, you can fill it out for them and then have them sign it, etc. That's what we do in Pennsylvania, and it's very successful at the colleges. Now, where do we go to meet people where they are? Like Patty was talking about that you guys were at the fair, right? So let me talk about Pennsylvania and our strategy and how we can hopefully replicate that here in your great state. Joe Biden, and I use this word loosely, won Pennsylvania by 80,000 votes. That's nothing. In a state of 9 million people, that's nothing. That's a percentage point. So let's break that down based on our demographic coalitions that we're building across Pennsylvania. There are 80,000 truckers in Pennsylvania alone. Think about it. In your great state, how many truckers are there, and are they going to be home on Election Day? Do you think truckers are going to be home on Election Day? No, they're working class America. They're driving. They might be in Cali. They might be in Florida. How are they going to vote on Election Day? And how are we possibly going to make sure they vote if we tell them not to vote by mail, if we tell them not to vote absentee, and they're not here at their polling location on Election Day? We must go to our rest stops or truck stops or service plazas like we have in Pennsylvania, and make sure, what is your plan to vote in Minnesota? If you're not going to be here, you have early in-person voting. I just saw that. You have October, 20th to November 4th. You can vote early here in the great state of Minnesota. So if you don't trust the drop boxes, if you don't trust the United States Postal Service, vote early in person. At least you're going in person and giving an election day worker at the office as opposed to dropping it in some nebulous drop box. Then I talked about our beautiful Amish. We in Pennsylvania have 90,000 Amish. That's the election. And what do they care about? School choice, religious freedom. Any raw milk lovers in here? Oh, yeah. There we go. Okay, a few of you. In Pennsylvania, Governor Josh Shapiro is waging a war on raw milk and on dairy. And let me tell you, it's inspiring the Amish to actually register to vote. Think about it. Their community almost has no autism. They're against forced vaccinations. They're for Make America Healthy Again. And I do want to just tangentially say, if there are any RFK Jr. supporters in this room that maybe Trump wasn't your pick, your fit, I just want you to know that you are welcome, and we want to join with you and have MAGA and MAHA work together to truly save our country. Next, we have 800,000 veterans in Pennsylvania. And you guys, you know very well, they don't think this is a big issue, but it is. Tim Walz's stolen valor is a big issue to the veteran community. And so we are courting veterans. And furthermore, Kamala Harris attacking Gold Star families after she had the nerve, she and Joe Biden killed 13 of our service members and then had the gall to then attack President Trump for visiting the Arlington Cemetery when they wouldn't visit the very families that they were responsible for killing. That is a very big issue in our country. So I want you guys to go to your VFW. I want you to go to your American Legion and bring voter registration forms with you. We're doing this in PA. Bring them and say, hey, can I leave these forms? Let's get every single veteran registered to vote in the great state of Minnesota. Next, and this is very, very important. Any hunters in here? Archers, fishermen, boaters. Okay, a few of you. And so, in Pennsylvania, we have 930,000 hunters. 30% are not registered to vote. 30! That's 300,000 people in a state that was lost by 80,000 votes. Wisconsin has 40,000, 40% of Wisconsin hunters are not registered to vote. 40. If every hunter in America votes, we win. If every Second Amendment enthusiast in America votes, we win. And I know it's 30 for PA and 40 Wisconsin. A logical and rational person would deduce that Minnesota is probably in that same ballpark. So I'm going to be at the St. Cloud gun show tomorrow because I want to put into practice what I'm preaching to you, and I'm going to be at that gun show to court those votes. You guys can look up, it's gunshowtrader.com, Trader, not trader like Kamala, but trader. I was sending a text message the other day, and I do voice to text because I'm always driving, I'm always doing something. And I said, Kamala, and my iPhone iMessage automatically recorrected it to Kamala. And I was like, okay. I was like, I rock with this. And so I have heard some people call her Kamilai, which I like that too. So you were free to take that. You were free to steal that. And so I want you guys, remember how I told you your American Legion and your VFW? Take voter registration forms to your local gun store. One of my best staffers, his name is Ellis Dukehart. He went to 13 different gun stores in 2 days. He brought voter forms and said, hey, to the owner, can I leave out these forms? Can we make sure that we're doing voter registration to get every single customer of yours registered to vote? 30% of Pennsylvania hunters are not registered. 13 out of 13 said, yes, you may do so. And they've never been approached by people before. So please, I beg you, go to your local Minnesota gun store. Bring voter registration forms with you. If you need advice on where to get them or how to print them, go badger Patty, and you have permission to text her at 3 a.m. asking her this info. So please do that for me. And if a gun store already has voter forms, go to the next one and go to the next one. Your work could literally transform this state and win seats that we lost by 400 votes by going to your VFW, by going to your gun store, your gun show, your gun range. And so the Amish, the truckers, the hunters, and I do want to mention in Pennsylvania, there are 400,000 members of the Jewish community. And I would be remiss not to acknowledge, let's be real, the Democrat Party is the party of Hamas. The Democrat Party is embracing Hamas. And I think you guys know a little bit of what's going on here in your state. As soon as I got out of the airport, I was seeing Palestinian Authority flags everywhere. This is our opportunity in history to court the Jewish vote. And if you go to my app, Early Vote Action, we literally have campaigns on there, and we say Kamala and the Democrats are supporting Hamas. The Jewish community deserves protection here and abroad. Consider Trump this November. And we were able, in Pennsylvania, we flipped Bucks County from blue to red. Now, let me give you context of what that means, because you're like, what does that mean? It's outside of Philadelphia. This area always trends blue. We were able to flip a county that 4 years ago had 15,000 more registered Democrats than Republicans. Today, Bucks County has 1,000 more registered Republicans than Democrats. And you might say to yourself, Scott, 1,000, what does that mean? No, babes, that is a shift of 16,000 to the right in 4 years in a state that was lost by 80,000 votes. That is political power. And part of it was us courting the Jewish vote. Now, don't get me wrong. At the same time, we must be courting the Muslim vote, because nobody's happy. The Muslims aren't happy, and the Jewish people are not happy. Nobody's happy. Everybody wants peace. And the fact of the matter is that 4 years ago under President Trump, we did not have these issues going on to the extent they are. He had the Abraham Accords. We had peace in the Middle East. We didn't have new wars. We didn't have Putin invading Ukraine. We didn't have the threat of Taiwan being invaded by China. We didn't have the threat of nuclear war in World War III. This is a very salient issue. And so, even with the members of the Muslim community, what are the issues they care about? They don't like Kamala and Joe Biden's anti-peace in the Middle East policies. And they agree with us that we shouldn't have, and I know we have members of the audience that are minors, so I'm going to choose my language carefully, graphic materials within our schools. That is something that everybody can agree with, that has no place for children under the age of 18. Nobody has to be seeing that in our publicly funded education systems. Of course the Democrats want it. Of course the Democrats want it. And so I want you to look for all of those opportunities. Leave no stone unturned in this coalition building. Truly, always think about, how can you earn somebody's vote? What do they care about? How is that relatable to the Republican Party? And do the hard ask and ask for their vote for President Trump this November. And so, do you guys have farmers markets in Minnesota? Oh my gosh, go to our farmers markets. Those are going to be your RFK Jr. supporters. They don't want to support corporate America. They don't want to support big box pharma and a whole bunch of foods that are GMO. They want healthy, organic. And that's where you're going to find our Amish as well. Go to the gun show, go to the farmer's market, go to the fairs, to the festivals. I've heard in your state that they have like pop-up Trump tents. Have you guys seen anything like that? The next time you see that, do me a favor, because I know you're going to have forms with you in your car after today. Bring over the forms to the table and say, hey, I love the work that you're doing. Can I leave these forms with you and make sure that every person that purchases from you today gets registered to vote, please? And if worse comes to worse, they can do it online. But remember, if they only do it online, the Secretary of State is the one that is collecting all of that information and not you guys. Now, one of your people here today, Mr. Fernandez, he was telling me about the Hispanic community in your state. This is where it's important knowing the layout of your state. I know in Pennsylvania, we have a place called the Latino Belt in PA, which is Lehigh County, Allentown, and it's Berks County, which is Reading. So knowing that we have so many Puerto Ricans and so many Dominicans in PA, we have hired 2 bilingual Spanish and English-speaking staff that are dedicated to just doing Dominican outreach and Puerto Rican outreach. So again, if an area is very Somali, please, we must be courting, and I know we have people within the Republican Party, we have people that speak Arabic or Farsi or whatever languages are that are in Twin Cities and St. Paul, Minnesota. Always think about how we can court, expand, and grow this Republican Party. So who here has ever knocked on a door for a Republican candidate before? Good job. Some in the back. No, I'm kidding. I'm teasing. So it's really easy. I want to do a little tips on door knocking just for anybody that may not ever ask for fear of asking a quote-unquote stupid question. Let's do just a little bit of role-playing because I think it's so important to demystify the process of door knocking. I want you guys to know that when you sign up with Patty or when you sign up with any members, we're not going to throw you to the wolves. We're not going to send you into downtown St. Cloud. We're not going to send you into St. Paul. We're going to send you to right-leaning independent voters, maybe to soft Republicans, and we're going to start you off with a more easy crowd. So let's pretend this is our door over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to knock on the door, and I'm going to ring, if they have a little ring doorbell, because everybody has cameras nowadays, I'm going to ring the doorbell, and then I'm going to do a special knock. You ready? I'm going to go. And you think I'm supposed to finish it, right? Don't finish it. Because the voter inside is going to want it, and you're not going to give it to them. And inside, they're going to be like, wait a second, why didn't they finish it? And they're going to come to the door. Right? They're going to come to the door and be like, why didn't you finish? So, when you're done, I want you to take several steps back, a lot. Because I'm 6'5". So if I'm hovering over the door, do you think a little lady's going to open the door for me? No. And especially nowadays, and especially and I want to make it clear, again, to anybody that's on the fence, this is Tim Walz. Tim Walz shut down your state more than any other state in the union. I'm staying at the Best Western, and they still have a plastic covering when you come in. This is 4 years later. This state was shut down more than any other. And I want to be very clear, especially since the camera is rolling. I want to say this very publicly, overtly, and I need all of you to say this to anyone that's on the fence. Tim Walz, stolen valor Tim Walz, put COVID-positive patients into nursing homes, killing Minnesota families. So to anybody that cares about that issue, that's maybe straddling the fence, you let them know that. I saw his post today. He goes, we need more people knocking on doors and registering voters. And so I replied to him and I said, well, you might have more volunteers if you didn't kill them. And I know it's funny, but it's true. We're too nice. This is war. This is our country on the line. I would not be here. I would not be here. I would not be dedicating my life to this unless I truly cared and I really thought that this is the end. This is it. We are teetering on the edge of losing our country. And I want to put things in a perspective for you for a second. We don't win this November. What happens? Kamala is going to make D.C. a 51st state. That's +2 Democrat, rabid liberal senators. Puerto Rico is going to be a 52nd state. That's +4 Democrat senators. They're going to stack the Supreme Court of the United States. Your conservative Supreme Court that you worked hard for, that you worked tirelessly for, that has given us rights of free speech, etc., that's done. Your judicial branch of the United States will forever be determined by Democrats, run by senators that are going to put forth only Democrat judicial nominations. Then they're going to extend DACA. Then they're going to give 30 million illegal aliens citizenship who are going to outvote us, who are going to outbreed us. You're going to see our First Amendment rights trampled on like the United Kingdom, where if somebody insults you, if you post something on Facebook, the police are going to show up at your door, and you will be the criminal. Someone assaults you in the street, you defend yourself, you are the criminal. And what did Tim Walz do in your state during the Summer of Love with George Floyd? He let it burn. He let your businesses burn. He let your homes burn. He let your people burn. That is our future unless you guys step up, get bold, and do something to save her. Do you hear me? Do you hear me? That's what I want. I want fire. I want passion. I want the spirit of our founders to enter you guys today. And I really hope that you don't just go home after this and just think it's a great speech and then just go do something. No, please. I am here as a warning. I am here as a warning. I bought a house in Pennsylvania, my entire life savings, just to move to that state because I feel so firmly in my resolve to save Pennsylvania to win the White House. And I ask you guys to do more. I ask you guys to do more. That's an applause line. Okay, back to our door knocking. Sorry, sometimes I'm like the president. I go off on a little tangent sometimes. So, I knock. They're stirring inside. They're stirring. I take steps back. I have with me my literature for Donald Trump and Congresswoman Fishbach and Tom Emmer and all of our candidates from top to bottom, and I'm holding it like this. I want them to see why I'm at their door. I'm not a goon. I'm not just standing there. I have a reason why I'm at their door. I don't have sunglasses on because I want them to be able to look me in the eye so I can gain their trust. I don't have my hands in my pockets even when it's below 20 degrees because I want them to see that I'm not carrying any weapons and I come with love. And literally, they open the door. Now, I know the GOP, they might ask you to say, hey, can I ask you a survey? I'm here to tell you right now, if you ask somebody, can I ask you a survey? They're not going to answer or they're going to say no. I'm asking for your vote for Donald Trump this November. Or, how do you feel about voting for Donald Trump this November? And they say, oh, I love him. Great. Is everybody in your house registered to vote? Great. Does everybody in your house have a plan to vote? Now, the Trump Force 47, they might have different ways for you to talk to people, but literally, this is get in the information, and go to the next house. Some of these people may want to talk your ear off. If that happens, you know what? Let me give you my number. I'm burning daylight. It's getting cold out here. I got to go knock on the next house. But if a Democrat knocks on your door, invite them in. Make them a pie. And take 3 hours of their time. I'm serious. And here's what I want you to say. And for some of you, I need you to become better at telling little white lies. And I don't want you to show it on your face. To that Democrat that you invite into your house, I want you to say, gosh, I'm such a fan of Liz Cheney. I have a picture of Mitt Romney in my bedroom. And I'm just struggling. I'm sitting on the fence. I just don't trust that Kamala, but I don't trust that Donald Trump. And you play dumb for 3 hours. Can you guys do that? Okay. Now, when somebody's not home and they have a Ring doorbell, leave a voicemail. Leave a message into their camera. My name is Scott. I'm here with the Carver County Republicans. I am asking for your vote for Donald Trump this November and our entire Republican ticket. I have this beautiful piece of literature. I'm going to leave this below your mat. I hope I have permission to do so. When you get home, take a look. If you have any questions, leave your phone number, leave your email, show them how genuine and authentic and how much you care that you're taking the time to leave a little voicemail. Now, at the same time, remember, everything you do in public life can be recorded. So when you go up to a door, make sure that if you have a partner there with you, that you guys are being the most, that you're not saying things that shouldn't be said. And you're not picking your nose or doing anything else. Just realize, because the DeSantis campaign, one of their staffers in Iowa was having a conversation, and the conversation was, we'll say, inappropriate. That ring call was leaked on social media, and the staffer ended up getting fired. So just remember, everything you do at people's homes can be recorded and watched. Now, for those of you who may not want to do all the door knocking or voter registration, etc., I don't want to speak for the Trump campaign or the GOP here, but I'll tell you, with our app on Early Vote Action, which is downloadable on iPhone and Android, you can write postcards from the comfort of your home. And you might say, Scott, how successful is a postcard? Well, we did this, for example, in Louisiana. We've done this in Pennsylvania. And I can tell you that postcards have a 25% return on investment. When we were writing to unregistered Louisiana voters, meaning people that weren't even in the system, what we did is we wrote them a letter. I kept track of who we wrote to. And then 2 weeks after, because I wanted time, for them to receive the letter, process it, whatever, at least 25% of those people had not only registered to vote, but then they were a registered Republican. So our postcards, our reaching out to people in today's, society that's all digital, that touch of doing a handwritten letter did make an impact. And it did. And by the way, let me give you a little bit of hope for a second on why I think we are more ripe than ever to win Pennsylvania. And I know I'm in Minnesota, but I know Pennsylvania. Let's talk about, I want to give you some hope. In 2016, there were 900,000 more registered Democrats than Republicans in PA. 900,000. Now, I'll remind you that Donald Trump won Pennsylvania by 40,000 votes. That's nothing, right? And the Libertarian candidate was on the ballot. Dr. Jill Stein was on the ballot, right? Now, fast forward to 2020. There were 650,000 more registered Democrats than Republicans. And that state was lost by 80,000 votes. Now, Dr. Jill Stein, the Green Party, was not on the ballot. The Libertarian candidate, which at that time was much more libertarian, was on the ballot. And remember, we had all the mail-in ballots from COVID, etc. They illegally changed the rules of the election without the consent of the legislature. They threw everything in the kitchen sink, and it was only decided by 80,000 votes. So, why am I more confident than ever about our chances of winning this November, at least in Pennsylvania? A, we have narrowed that deficit, that D over R, down to 350,000. And if you take out inactive voters, that number is 170,000. Pennsylvania is in play. It gets better. Because since 2020, we flipped Beaver County from blue to red. We flipped Berks County from blue to red. We flipped Bucks County from blue to red. And we are 340 voters from flipping Luzerne County from blue to red. But wait, there's more. Luzerne County 4 years ago had 24,000 more registered Democrats. That's down to 340. 24,000 in a state that was lost by 80,000 votes. That's political power, guys. Furthermore, Dr. Jill Stein is on the ballot in Pennsylvania this year. RFK Jr. is not on the ballot because the Democrats wouldn't even let him get on the ballot. Thank you, Democrat Party. Chase Oliver, the Libertarian candidate, is this mask-wearing, puberty-blocking, pushing, extreme radical, Tim Walz-esque libertarian. And all of these things, in addition to Democrats are down 30% in their mail-in ballot request in Philadelphia, down 30% in Allegheny County, Pittsburgh, and down more than 100,000 statewide from where they were 4 years ago in 2020. All of these things lead me to believe, by the metrics, by the data, by the mail-in ballots, that we can win Pennsylvania. And again, we do. We will re-elect President Donald J. Trump. Back to the app. So, in addition to the postcards, and I have re-register voters on there, turning inactive voters to active. I have college kids. I have the Jewish community. I can do independent voters, Patty, for Minnesota. You guys tell me what you want. And by the way, I know this is off topic, but I really love the Minnesota accent. And I have to tell you, even when someone's not cute, if they say, "Don't you know," it does it for me. I just have to say that. In addition to postcards, we also have phone calls you can do from the comfort of your home, and we have text messages. You can text, call, postcard people from your home when it's below 20 and still get out the vote. So this app is available to all of you. Again, I'm not here. This isn't the Scott Presler show. I embrace Trump Force 47. I embrace the Carver County Republicans. They get your full time first. My work here is to be complementary to the work that you're doing. I'm a team player. I want to win. So with that being said, we've gone over some door knocking tips, voter registration, the importance of meeting people where they are, that you can write people, you can call them, you can text them. I want to hear from you guys. What questions do you have with my time here with you? What can I provide for you? What can I educate you on? How can I help further? Babe, well, I invite you. How about this, babe? Let's do this. Come to the St. Cloud, Minnesota gun show tomorrow, and I will teach you, I will show you how I do it and how I talk to people. I saw another hand somewhere. Yes, ma'am. And be loud. Be loud. Yes.
We got a mic now.
We have these voter registration forms, right? Do we send them in? How do they, or do we ask them to send them, which they may never?
Great question. Excellent question. So she's saying, do we collect the forms? Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Because think about it. If a ma, Patty was telling me, these new people that are moving in, they're so focused on their lives. Think about it. We are struggling in Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's America to even get by. The last thing I need is to now go to my board of elections or mail another form or do something else. We are there to help these people. You collect the form and either mail it or turn it in to your local Bureau of Elections, Board of Elections, whatever your elections office is. Now, you must also remember to collect that information. We want their first name, last name, email address, phone number, home address to follow up and follow through with those people. So it's A, you want to make sure it gets done. B, you want the data. And C, you take a really cute picture afterwards and post it on social media to show the work you're doing to edify and inspire other people to do voter registration. That's why it's so critical to collect that. Great question.
And we can go out as groups.
Yes.
It's good to do
It's
it
fun.
together.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Tam, and then I'll come to you.
What time are you going to be at the show tomorrow?
I'm going to be there from 10 to 12. 10 to 12. Yes, ma'am. At the St. Cloud, Minnesota gun show.
Hey, Scott, I wanted to thank you for all you've done. Really appreciate it. It's amazing, your work effort. But my question is, are you familiar with the work that Edward Solomon and Bobby Piton put together in June of 21 showing, okay, so they show through geometry that our elections are predetermined events, that the only variable that we can't control is same-day voting, that any votes prior to same-day voting can be easily manipulated through the algorithm.
Okay. Yes, I know Bobby Piton out of Illinois.
Bobby Piton. And Edward Solomon.
Yes.
Have you watched their work? Have you seen their work?
Yes.
What do you think of it?
I believe if Republicans wait to vote on 12 hours, we will have Madam President Kamala Harris. Okay. Now,
Edward Solomon is a high-ranking PhD mathematician, as is Bobby. They've proved with their geometry that with 100% accuracies, this is not statistics, that any vote done prior to same-day voting, as you can't model same-day voting, which is how Trump won. And to your point earlier, it's how you got 19-inch ballots, right? Because they needed a time hack, right? So if we vote before Election Day, according to the math, it's going to be worked away through the algorithm, right? Just like high-frequency trading, you can change the algorithm in milliseconds. If we vote on Election Day, that's where the discrepancy comes. That's how Trump won in 2016. Can you push people to vote on Election Day, all things being equal?
Good question. Well, let me preface this with a couple things. No. And the reason why is, can that PhD scientist, mathematics genius, can he confirm to me that it won't snow on Election Day? Let me finish. You asked a question. I would like to give an answer. Can he confirm to me that they won't run out of paper ballots on Election Day? Can he confirm to me that the machines aren't connected to the internet on Election Day? Can he confirm to me that they're not going to have a power outage on Election Day? And if nobody can confirm to me that nothing will go wrong on Election Day, when the majority of Republicans will vote on Election Day, then I cannot in good conscience, sir, tell people to only vote on 12 hours when everything can go wrong on one day. Sure.
So basically, it's a 14th Amendment violation if you don't let people vote on Election Day. If you have 19-inch ballots, you need 20-inch ballots, that actually is a time hack, and that basically shows the discrepancy. It shows the fraud, all right? So by having those hacks, it actually helps our case. But the issue of having this fear that you won't have your vote count on Election Day is a false premise, because our 14 civil rights amendments give us the right to vote, and we have to be able to have that right to vote. So those things will supersede your comments.
Well, then we would have Governor Kerry Lake, sir. We would have Attorney General Abe Hamadeh. We would have Senator Blake Masters. How can you tell me that everything is going to go? Here, let me put it this way. You're saying that in 2022, people showing up on Election Day said that the 19-inch paper ballots, although that happened, it proved that there were shenanigans. The fact of the matter is the shenanigans happened, and Kerry Lake lost. She's not governor.
No, what I'm saying is, mathematically, if you don't vote on Election Day, it's easy to manipulate the outcome. I'm saying the 19-inch ballots were put in place for a time hack to give them a time to separate and put the ballots in backwards, right? These are predetermined events that they fill in the backwards. It's been proven mathematically.
So why were we able to win the House of Representatives in 2022 if everything is predetermined?
We won in the areas that we're looking at, to your point, Long Island and to California. The reality is we won a major landslide, but the manipulation was so widespread as it is that they were able to only get a 4-house margin when it was really closer to a significantly higher number.
And what happened in Long Island, where I worked, and in California, we ballot harvested. We voted early, and it was from ballot harvesting and voting early that we have saved Duarte. We saved Valadeo. We saved Michelle Steele. We saved young Kim. It was through ballot harvesting and early voting. Now, you've asked a lot of questions. I'm not going to belabor this, but I'm telling you again, if Republicans wait to vote on one day, we will lose. It's done.
Yep, I agree, Scott. Tom, let's move on, please. Thanks. No, Tom. We've had enough.
We've given you a lot of time, and I know this will be on social media. I want people to see this. I want people to know if they wait. It snowed on Long Island on their primary election for New York 03 on Election Day. I'm sorry, but I cannot in good conscience tell Republicans to wait to vote on one day when we lost a seat by 417 votes because people didn't vote early, didn't get out the vote.
To your snow comment.
So I appreciate your 5 questions, Mr. Tom, but we're going to continue on. And please send this to Bobby Piton and Mr. Solomon and all the other election integrity people out there.
So, Scott, to that point, we have caucus here in
Beautiful.
February, and it snowed, and we had some of the lowest caucus turnout this year because people were like, and honestly, the location that I was at just down the way, there was a accident at the 4-way stop, and there was different things on the way. It was slick and it was awful, and people stayed home. So we only have that one night. We only have that one night, and people get busy, and Tuesday nights is basketball practice for the kid and whatever else, and people get busy. And Tom, I get it, but I'm going to tell you it's not a time hack.
It doesn't negate the map. The map is
Because it's a normal distribution curve.
It is not a normal distribution curve.
No, that's why they're working backwards.
If people don't show up to vote, what matter does it matter?
AK, but it's not a state, I do too, but it's a Pythagorean theorem. AK, thank you.
Okay, quick question, practical question. Practical question for Patricia. Number one, the voter registration with the QR code that you're showing us, can I only use that in Carver, or can I use that anywhere in the state? I can use it statewide. Okay. The second one is when we pick them up, can I, if I pick them up in St. Paul, where do I have to take them? Do I have to take them to the particular city, or where do I take them when I collect the ballots? If I collect the voter registration, do I have to, could I drive to the city of Eden Prairie to drop them off statewide for them, or do I have to go to the jurisdiction where?
To the respective county.
Any county office. So if I pick up Ramsey County, I can drop it here. So I can go any county as long as I'm going to the county. I'd rather deliver it to the. Okay. I'd rather deliver it to the county, but so I can, wherever I get the ballot, I can get it filled out, and then I just got to get it to the county offices. Okay.
Not even just the county offices, you could do the cities. So like Plymouth, here where Connie lives and works.
But one edit, he said ballot. I want to make sure people
No,
understand.
it's the absentee,
application.
it's the voter registration form.
Correct.
Yeah.
Voter registration application.
We don't have
I was going to ask you, how do you figure out the precincts and how many votes you need in each precinct?
I do it more based on, for example, 67 counties in Pennsylvania, we lost by 80,000. 1,000 votes extra gives us what we need, plus some in order to win the election. So this is a strategy modeled after our win in Virginia. We won the governorship in Virginia in 2021, despite everybody saying that we couldn't do that. And by the way, we did do early voting and legal ballot harvesting, and we had every single polling location staffed as well. So I do encourage people to become election day workers as well. Become an election day worker, not a poll watcher. The poll watchers can get kicked out. The election day workers work for the state of Minnesota. Is that clear?
Yeah, the election workers here actually work for each individual municipality. We're all paid different. By the way, apparently Chanhassen pays more than Chaska. I work in Chanhassen. I live in Chaska, but I work here. Anyway, but yeah, there's different pay scales. Every municipality hires their election judges. We have a little bit of a conundrum going on in Carver County, so I'm working on that. We've got a little bit of things, but yeah.
But to elaborate, and I'm sorry to interrupt, so for example, I'm doing this a lot based on the congressional district. So for example, Northeast Pennsylvania, up in the 8th Congressional District, you have a Democrat named Matt Cartwright. His district is vulnerable. So we've been doing a lot in Pike, Wayne, Luzerne, Lackawanna. We're focusing more on a congressional district strategy. And then right below that is the 7th Congressional District. That's Susan Wild. That district is also vulnerable to flip it from blue to red. And that's Allentown and Northampton and part of Berks County, the Latino belt that I was talking about. So everything that I'm doing is in part strategic, either by a county margin or by a congressional district margin. Now, you could also extrapolate that to, for example, this district we're here in Carver County. Carver County, I would focus on this area. If our goal is to stop your governor from passing legislation, then you need a couple seats in the House, you need 1 Senate seat, right? So I would focus on those vulnerable Senate or House districts based on your strategy to take back the legislature. That's just how I approach things.
How are you doing in Erie?
Erie is down to 10,000. 10,000 more Ds than Rs. And I was just there in Erie with Senator Dan Laughlin, and he told me, Scott, there are blue areas of Erie that now they're seeing Trump stuff everywhere. So, but,
Awesome.
Guys, a poll is a poll. The data is the data. The only thing that matters is ballots into boxes. The only thing that matters is voting, and ultimately what is recorded on Tuesday, November 5th. And remember one more thing. They used to have your state plus 10 Joe Biden. Since people have learned about Kamala and Tim Walz, it's only plus 5. Minnesota is in play. You guys can win in Minnesota.
You're absolutely right. And you know what, Scott? I listened to the Red Eagle podcast. I don't know if you've picked that one up. You know Red Eagle. So a friend of mine who lives in Mississippi right now sends this podcast to me back in July of 22. And he's like, hey, don't you live in Carver County? I said, why? Yes. And he goes, listen here. 15 minutes in, they mention your county by name in Minnesota as key to the white whale of Minnesota. You have to make this happen, he throws down. I said, what? I said, dude, you're nuts. But besides that, here I am now, doing the nut thing. But absolutely, and I found that podcast the other day, and I went back and re-listened to it. And they say Carver County, by name, and Anoka are the key to flipping Minnesota red. I listen to this guy all the time now. I'm like, I'm like, oh, Oracle, tell me it's going better. But it is possible. It is possible, and we just have to have the faith, but we also have to work hard. Okay, so we got one here.
Hello, long-time follower. I've been following you since 2021, so I'm glad to come here today and meet you. And I love your work. 20 years activist as a Republican. From George Bush days, knocking on doors. To the brother who's saying the predictive math, let me explain something to you about people of color. We are outmatched as Republicans. Walter Hudson was kind, he said $10 to $1 now. They're spending $200 to every $1 we Republicans spend within our communities. And that's why they know the Democrat issues. They feel comfortable with the Democrat candidate, even though their values is for God, country, and humanity. They will vote against us because they don't know us. We don't reach out to them, and we're not doing effective work at delivering our message to them. Our media will not carry our message, not the Star Tribune, not the Pioneer Press, not the local channels, And more importantly, we don't vote for Republicans because we don't bank voters. Now, I spent last 20 years making phone calls to almost 100,000 people, just here in Minnesota, over 100,000 times, every election. I convince people to vote for Republicans, but guess what? Before, on the day of election, when I call them, they tell me, Mohammed, we've already voted. I said, what? They said, what do you mean you've already voted? Somebody came, registered us. Somebody came, delivered the mail to us. Somebody came on the election day, before election day, and we voted. And what did you vote? He said, well, they told us vote for the Democrat from the top of the ticket all the way down to the door catcher. Let me explain that again. They voted for the Democrats because this person reached out to them, came to them, talked to them, and simply told them to vote. It's that simple.
Yes.
You hit on the magic, brother. Now, how are we going to do that here in Minnesota? My advice is reach out, volunteer, do exactly what this gentleman is saying. There's no other way. You got to do the hard work. And please get comfortable. The lady here, Patricia Williamson, talks about Carver County. It's not just Carver County. Today, you talked about the Muslim community and the Somali community and people who speak 3 languages or 4 languages. Well, I speak 5. We're together on this. And we started an organization called Republican People of Color because, again, why? They're playing identity politics. They don't like seeing people like us speaking up, talking, or doing anything. So we're going to play the identity politics too. We're here, and we're Republican, and we're coming out. So we're not afraid anymore. And the question is, how do we reach people? Well, my advice is, don't go through the gatekeepers. They're not playing by the rules. The rules have changed. The rules keep on changing. And if you're playing by the rules and gentleman ways and thinking that you're going to win this election, 2020, 2022, it should be a good lesson to you. So we're doing the outreach, and we're door knocking for candidates. And the certain house candidates we're going to win. And I'm pretty sure we're going to win because the community is really fed up. We can't afford anything anymore. It's that simple. It's not a matter of color anymore. It's just a matter of pocketbooks. You know?
So, Mr. Mohammed, are you seeing a shift even from 2020 or 2016 with people of color, with the Somali community? Would you say that they're more ripe than ever to join the Republican Party?
They're already at the door. We just got to push them. Who's doing the pushing now? You do. And how do you do it? Ballot harvesting. That's it. There's no other trick to this. And we get them on the day of election to go vote. There's many issues. For example, they might not like our foreign policy, but at the end of the day, we know only one president in 72 years who didn't start a war in America. Trump.
So what you're saying, Mr. Mohammed, is there's no magic. I don't have to be a person of color. All I have to do is show up,
just be a
show
human
I
being.
give a darn, be authentic, and we can win those votes.
Not only can we win those votes, we can push it. Now, the counties we're talking about is Dakota, Anoka, Ramsey, Carver, and Hennepin. We can win this one. I know we can win this one because people are coming out to me. They've known me to be a Republican, so they're coming out to me and politely telling me, we're with you this time. These are hardcore Democrats.
Beautiful. Well, can we thank Mr. Mohammed for his work?
Thank you.
All right, here you go. Hey, Scott. I'm Jake, lifelong Minnesotan. You actually follow me on Twitter. I'm known as MAGA Jake. I follow you back too. As I'm sure you see from my feed there, I do send out multiple messages a day. I want to help you win flip Pennsylvania because you are right. The Keystone State is is the key to the White House. But you mentioned something tonight that really caught my attention. There, you said I actually did not know this, that there are Amish residents here in Minnesota.
Yes.
What is an effective way for us as outreach members of the party how do we best reach the Amish here in Minnesota, and what is the most effective way to not only get them registered to vote, but to also court their vote and make sure that they vote for President Trump?
Thank you. Great question. So, we've been, I didn't want to just show up in the Amish community towards Election Day and then try to earn their trust. This has been a labor of love. So we started in February, starting in Mifflin County. Now, this is a place called Belleville. It's actually really interesting. They have 3 different types of Amish. They have black tap, yellow tap, and white tap. And that is in regards to the top color of the cart that they drive around town. And each level is a different level of whether or not they engage in technology. So I think the white top is the most technologically advanced. The yellow is kind of like in the middle, and the black top is like no technology. Like you have to have a phone outhouse, that the phone is outside of your domicile in order to conduct business, like when I went over to the sawmill. And so what we did is we literally just started showing up at sawmills, at dairy farms, at their restaurants, and just asking them, hey, what do you think about what's going on in today's world? And they're very astute. I mean, they read the paper, they understand what's happening. And I spoke with one bishop, and he knew about the puberty blockers and the lopping off body parts of children that aren't able to make, decisions at that age. And they understood, the wars that were happening. Now, a couple things about the Amish. And I don't know Minnesota Amish. I know Pennsylvania Amish, so they might be different. So, but hopefully they say it again. Yeah, yellow tap. Is that what they are? Oh, okay. They're kind of in the middle. Okay, so when you're talking to Amish, they care about a couple things. They're very, of course, heavenly minded. They really don't care about earthly responsibilities. It's all going to heaven, and they're very pacifist. They care about peace. And so some Amish I've spoken to said, Scott, I don't vote because I'm not going to vote for a commander-in-chief that could possibly get us into war. And so when I heard that, my ears really perked up because I thought to myself, well, what better than to vote for a president that if the goal is to not have war, then therefore it's to stop human suffering or at least alleviate it and promote peace. And President Trump is our peace president. And so we've been able to use that as an angle, saying, look, I know you don't want war and you're not comfortable voting for a commander-in-chief that will get involved with war. Then what about voting for a president that promotes peace and that is going to help stop human global suffering? And that has been an angle we've been able to work. And furthermore, one quote that we kind of came up with that is biblical in part is, do not be so heavenly minded that you're not earthly good. And you want to kind of think in those terms. If your goal is to go to heaven, then we still have to act faithfully while we are on earth. And that also means voting, and voting good people into office because, again, if you're not a part of the solution, you are the problem. And we also talk about the coerced vaccinations, that they're attacking raw milk. They are attacking every single aspect of Amish living. And when you bring it down to that level, we've been seeing the Amish register to vote in Pennsylvania in record numbers. So go to your farmer's market, go to your sawmill. Oh, and I even milked a cow. No, I'm serious. I milked a cow by hand. I haven't had raw milk yet. That's on the list. But thank you for your
very much.
question.
Very well said.
Hi. When you go and register voters at events like gun shows or drop-off forms at gun stores or at truck stops, what's your pitch to people when they approach your table? And do you ask them specifically if they are going to register as a Republican or Democrat, or do you not broach
Great question.
that?
Excellent question. Excellent. See, you guys catch some of the stuff I miss. So when I go out and I'm registering voters, I'm Republicaned out. I'm MAGA'd, I'm Trumped, I'm J.D. Vanced, I'm wearing everything MAGA, right? Because for the same reason, like if you went outside and you go to your university and you see someone wearing a Kamala Harris shirt and then they've got a Tim Walz hat, and then they have like Bernie Sanders socks. Like, would you talk to that person? No, they're mentally ill. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I know that's recorded. I know. No, but for all honesty, would a Democrat register to vote with me at a MAGA table? Probably not. The same way that I wouldn't register to vote at a Tim Walz, Stolen Valor, putting COVID-positive patients in nursing homes table. I would not register to vote there. And so you want to be MAGA'd out. And then if I'm overtly Republican, all I have to say to people is, are you registered to vote? It is implicit that I am Republican, and therefore it is implicit that people I register to vote will be conservative. And then it takes the anxiety off of you guys. You don't have to, in this state, say, are you a Republican? Go out there with your Make America Healthy Again. RFK Jr., supporter. You can say close the border, religious freedom, God bless Elon Musk, like little stuff like that, that is going to alert people your ideology, especially in a state like this that I know it's a little bit more difficult to be a conservative. Does that help you out? Okay.
Thank you. Here's another one.
And Patty, by the way, I don't know what time it is, but if you need to cane me or whatever, you let me know when we're done. Okay.
All right. Here we go.
Quick question on registering voters. When I do it, I hand them my phone, I pull up the Secretary of State, hand them the phone, fill it in, send it in, right? If we want to collect that data, or if we're doing a paper registration, how are we getting that to the party or to the people that want that data for the Republicans instead of just mailing it or going through the Secretary of State? Do we take a picture of it?
I keep an Excel spreadsheet of all the forms that I collect, so every voter, well, I've missed a few over the ones I've done, but I try to collect all that information and keep it into an Excel spreadsheet. And I'm a team player, so I will share that with all legal parties that I can share that. And I say that because I'm a political action committee, so I want to make sure that I'm being compliant and I'm not coordinating with any candidates or anything like that. Now, if you're doing it on your phone, you can, you're viewing that data on there. I'll take a screenshot to make sure that I have saved that information. But again, if you're only sending it to the Secretary of State and you're not keeping it, you're helping the Democrats and you're not helping the Republican Party. I like the forms because it's a paper trail. I have a paper trail. I can turn it in, and I can also help out the Carver County Republican Party. I love that.
But I went for CD5 out in Montgomery County, and we have great data guys from CD5, and they want that data so we can do something with that data. So, okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. Here we go, Nicole.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for mentioning that Tim Walz sent the people back to the nursing home. The kicker is we had a Bethesda hospital, a COVID hospital we all paid for the COVID sick. He didn't send them there. Just FYI, he had options. I had a question about the gun show. I understand going into the gun stores and asking if you can leave the forms. But if you go into a gun show, do you rent a booth there or do you get their permission? How do you deal with it being a private event?
Great question. So I asked them, like when you go to gunshowtrader.com, it's going to have all of the contact information on there. I ask them for a free booth to start because, look, in life you cannot receive what you do not ask for. So ask them, say, look, I'm not pushing politics. I'm not selling anything. I literally want to register voters. But Scott, why aren't you MAGA'd out or pushing politics at a gun show? Because 99.9% of people there are going to be our people. So when you talk to a priest, a pastor, a rabbi, a member of the Muslim faith, and you're going into their place of worship, then you're not decked out politically, being mindful that you need to ease getting in there in order to register voters, because the majority of people of faith are going to vote conservatively if you register them to vote. It's the same thing with going into a gun show. Now, some people, they're like Annette with Showmasters Gun Show. She's in Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland, and Pennsylvania. She lets us be trumped. So it is gun show to gun show, but ask for a booth. If they won't give you a booth, pay for one. It's like $75. And if you get 75 voter registrations, $1 per voter registration is great. And remember, you're seed planting. If you do an event and you go to a farmer's market and you register one voter, just remember, you're touching people. Even if you didn't get a voter, you're seed planting. Everything we do is we're reminding voters we're having a presence there. Does that help?
Yeah. All right, very good. Here's yeah.
So we did a voter registration at gun show last year. We bought the table. It was half price because we weren't selling anything. And that's to the point, touching people, telling them to get involved in their local GOP, telling them to get out and pay attention to what's going on in their municipalities and their school boards. Tell them that matters. That touch point is just as important as registering those voters and getting them in the circle, if you will, and telling them how important it is for them to pay attention. So absolutely, and honestly, if any of you tonight want to go to a gun show or another place and you meet, I don't know, a craft show, I don't know if that's a good spot.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Don't go to a cat show.
Any of you want to, I'm going to make this promise to you tonight. I just do this because I can, to some extent. I think that board would care. But if we have some substantial people come forward and say, I've got an opportunity to go to this gun show, it's $20, I'll give you the $20, guys, let's go.
Yes.
You arrange something in your church, we will bring the goods to do it. I honestly was telling people, if we go to a church or a gun show, we can be neutral. We don't have to go. Actually, I like your way better. Why not up the red and go for it, right? Because then they won't come. I mean, like the people that came to our conservative Republican booth at the county fair knew what they were into. They were our Republicans that were registered. There's some places that we won't probably go, like the cat show, or I can think about 5 other events that probably remember. But if you go somewhere that you could be in a stone's throw of a conservative, that ups your margin, right, of error of running into somebody that you want to get registered. Just like I go randomly door to door through the new neighborhoods, I'm getting a 50-50 shot probably, or maybe a little bit better, because I swear I know we have got to find a secret handshake for myself. Because you come around, it's like, oh, and then you have conversations casually at Girl Scout meetings, and before you know it, you're like, oh. Then it's like, oh, you're a conservative. Something triggers. I had this happen at a professional meeting last month. I'm talking to a guy from Canada, and I asked him about something, and he goes, did you see Bill O'Reilly, blah, blah, blah? And I was like, why he's going to get on the race? And I go, Nick, what did I say? Something he picked up on. And he goes, you're a conservative? And I said, yeah, are you? And we're like, okay. You know, apparently they go by blue in Canada, if you're conservative. Not red. Yeah, well, yeah, it looks, blue looks better.
All right, Patty, I'm going to give this back to you.
Anyway, the point is, you might be surprised who you run into when you get a chance.
All right, we have a next
and let's
question.
make this our last beautiful question because I want to make myself available to meet all of y'all. So let's make this our last one.
Christy, you got it.
Okay. This is kind of a follow-up to that. Well, I've got 2 questions. First, evangelical churches, you touched on this a little, that you're not decked out, but how do you go about getting permission? And, you know, where do you put your booth? You don't put it in there Sunday during church, do you?
Yeah.
Or you do?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, some of them let us in. So like before Mass or after Mass, whatever. But I mean, ask your priest, ask your rabbi, your imam, and really it's about what they're comfortable with. Some are gung-ho and will be like, I'll even announce we have voter registration during the profession and then, register either before or after. Now, if some churches won't let you do it, she said earlier, public sidewalk, and I agree with this, public sidewalk is public property. This is war. This is a peaceful war where if there's sidewalk outside the church and they won't let you do it, then you go set up a voter registration table where you can. You know, because it is unfathomable that 30% of Christians don't vote. When 2020 was 80,000 votes Pennsylvania, 10,000 votes Georgia, 20,000 votes Wisconsin, 20,000 votes Arizona. Let's overwhelm the system. Let's overwhelm the vote.
Yeah.
Okay, with that being said, why don't we do this? I just want to say it's been a pleasure. I really hope all of you took away some good knowledge and some good activities you can do after this. And I make a firm commitment to you. I'm going to spend every second for the next 60 days doing everything I can to save our country. I hope you will too. And I'm going to ask my first questions again before we close with Ms. Patty. Are you guys ready to defeat Tim Walz? Are you guys ready to re-elect President Donald J. Trump? Let's go! And now, one more round of applause for Patty as she closes us out. You give her applause. You give her applause.
Thank you, Scott. Awesome. You're the best. All right. Well, yeah, that was cool. So, expect nothing more. If you guys are on Twitter, if you turn on your Twitter feed in the evening, or if you see something, I get stuff that pops up. And it'll pop up and if you follow Scott, it'll pop up and say, Scott Presler's in this room talking about voting. I'm like, what? So I click on it, and next thing I know, I'm listening to him with hundreds of people are in this Twitter thing. And I haven't figured this all out yet, but it's magic. Yeah, Anyway, I'm so grateful that everybody took time on a Friday night to come have fun with us together and commune, if you will, around this. We're going to go out and get... who wants to go register some voters now? Raise your hand. We got to get everybody on the field. We need all of our team. You wouldn't go out and play a football game with 5 players against the junior high team that's got the full complement, would you? No, I don't care how big you are. You can't take them all on, right? You wouldn't go out to a soccer game with 3 players against the other team. Do you expect to win? Why are we leaving 2/3 of our team off the field? Come on. I keep saying this to people. I'm like, this is not hard. And I honestly had a pause moment listening to a town hall of a candidate just recently. And he was talking about our founding fathers, and I think Scott even mentioned we got to have the fire of our founding fathers. And he was talking about Patrick Henry and some of them and how they laid down their lives and they put everything they had on the line to build this country and found what we have today and that we take for granted sometimes, right? And he was really giving it really harsh. And I was like, the give me liberty or give me death. And I was like, gosh, can you tone it down? I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, it's too much. And he goes, wait a minute, I'm not asking you to die. I'm asking you just to go vote. And all of a sudden it was very much relieving. And I was like, wow, that was a psych game. I'm like, he's right. He made it out like this big, enduring, oh my gosh, burden. We're not asking people to give up but 5 minutes of their day to register to vote and then go and exercise it. I like the comment earlier from Mohammed that if we don't get out and start capturing those votes, someone else will. I really do see the evidence of the turnout problem here. It's been very prominent. I've been looking at the data for 6 years. I've got friends that we sit down and do a lot of looking, and we got a turnout problem. And honestly, I think the Democrats have maxed themselves out. We're the ones that got to get in. It's up to us to win it. They only win because we sit down. So that's all I got to say. Everybody go out front, take a picture with Trump and Scott. We got our Trump cutout here. He came special from the office. If you are in the Carver County area, even if you're outside of Carver County, we love our neighbors and friends. I'd like to just point out the chair of Scott County, Jeff, is here. Wave, Jeff. So we've got some legislators that came besides Walter Hudson. Pam, are you still here? Pam Altendorf is here. Man, if you don't follow her on Facebook, you should, because, boy, she tells it how it is and gives you the inside info. And I'm looking around, trying to see who else we got. Oh, for heaven's sakes, he don't need no introduction. A.K. Kamara, conservative online opinionator and national committeeman. You know, for the reality is Minnesotan Republicans come in all shapes and sizes. You don't have to agree with us on 100%. You don't need to be lockstep in with everybody else. Get your young kids involved. I have a teenage Republican club. My daughter's the president. She'll take people on that are even outside of our county. We got one member who lives in Savage, so he's over the neighbors, but it's okay. You know, we can come have fun together. They're going to have pizza on Sunday. It's important to start making those connections with each other, because everything that's going on is to put more distance between us. And Scott's not wrong. There's a possibility of losing a lot of our rights if we don't really start exercising them. By the way, just a little bit of annoyance. How many of you knew there was a primary on August 13th? Yeah, you guys knew. What the heck happened? 9% turnout in Carver County. That includes the Democrats? WT whatever. Anyway, thanks, everybody. Have some fun tonight. If anybody wants to go to the Chan Brewery later, maybe we can catch a beer with Scott. Yeah. All right.